afternoon. Welcome back here in our ESCMID Global TV studio. My name is Judith Cohen. I am your host here at ESCMID Global TV, and I am very pleased to introduce to you yet another one of our keynote lecturers here this year at ESCMID Global, and no one less than Dr. Sodiomon Sirima. He held his keynote lecture earlier this morning at 11 o'clock in Hall A on the topic Innovations in Diagnosis, Treatment and Prevention of Malaria. So if you missed out, no worries, because ever since the pandemic, this Congress, formerly known as ESCMID, but now ESCMID Global, is a hybrid event. So later on there will be also the talk of Dr. Sirima will be available on demand for you. So, Sodiomon, thank you so much for finding the time to join us here at ESCMID Global TV as well. As I understand, you are, you are known as an expert in doing clinical trials and GCP compliant clinical trials with malaria vaccines. You also are currently the Chief Executive Officer of a non-governmental health research institute in your country, Burkina Faso.
Yes.
And you have done a lot of research on malaria, as I understood.
Yes.
Yes. How many years are you already working in research on malaria?
Close to 30 years.
Close to 30 years, yeah. So we're really very interested in to hear how your keynote lecture was this morning. How did you experience it? And then I'd like to dive into some of the topics that you discussed, if that's okay with you.
Okay, thanks. It was really a nice meeting that we have. I have seen that the meeting was quite full.
Yeah.
And many questions was also asked.
Yeah.
Clearly explaining that it was a topic of interest for the audience.
Yeah, because so in Burkina Faso, malaria is a large health problem.
Yes, unfortunately, Burkina Faso is still among the top 10 high burden countries. Unfortunately.
Yeah. And can you dive a little deeper in on what you talked about today in your keynote lecture? Because you were speaking about innovations in diagnosis, treatment, and prevention.
Yes.
Could you give us a little direction? What kind of innovations should we be thinking of?
Okay.
Like new tests, new diagnostics?
Okay, thanks a lot. I think this is quite a very broad topic. And for sure, clearly said that malaria is still burden in many countries. And I know that the World Health Organization, WHO, has set up some, let's say, criteria to fight against the disease when some milestones. And clearly I was saying that to introduce the topic that probably due to COVID and due to some issues with milestone setup may not be reached by the year 2030. And this was due mainly to, I was saying, economic aspect, but COVID and also climate change and some challenges with the parasite, who is now becoming resistant to the majority of drugs that are in the market.
Yeah.
Mosquito, who is the vector of a disease, is also resistant. And with climate change, there is a new vector, Anopheles stevensii, coming into the transmission pattern, affecting the control of the disease. And in terms of diagnosis, there is a deletion of some of the genes which were the target of the rapid test diagnosis. And this deletion of the gene also is a big challenge.
Yeah. So because of the global warming, the vector, which is the mosquito, it changed, it mutated?
The vector is changing, and some part of the world which was free of malaria, with the global warming becoming invaded by the mosquito. So malaria is coming into, again, in these countries. So this is really the landscape of the situation.
Yeah.
So all efforts need to be made, and some innovation need to also come into the scene. And what I have also said is that we clearly, with debt control tools like BedNet, new ACTs, it has clearly shown that there is many deaths averted during, while we see an increase in that utilization of that tools. So clearly innovation is something which can come up, which can bring...
And which field do you feel we can get the most gain in? Is it earlier diagnosis, better diagnosis? Is it better therapeutics? Or is it all even?
That's very difficult.
It's all relevant,
of
course.
Yeah, all are relevant. It depends on the country where you want really. Yeah, some of the intervention targeting directly the population, like early treatment and improving community management, may be a rapid gain intervention, where you try to train community health workers in the most remote areas. That help a lot, for sure.
Yeah. And so how is the prophylaxis at the moment for malaria? Of course, dependent on which country and which strains. But is it adequate, or do we need innovating there as well?
Yes, for sure. Innovation is needed everywhere for the prevention. First, if for vector control, there is. I was talking about the resistance of vector to the common use insecticide. So innovation is needed to just bring more this what we call now the association of insecticide. If you have to combine them, you have to combine them, and this is something needed. In terms of chemoprophylaxis, this is also needed because the chemoprophylaxis is mainly based on one of the drugs, which is sulfadoxine pyrimethamine. The drug is quite becoming, the parasite is becoming resistant to this drug. So we need to find new drugs. That is one of the very useful things. And also for the vaccines, I think probably the past the lesson learned from the past is just to control infectious disease. Vaccine is one of the most effective tools. So if a vaccine could come into the scene, that would be very helpful to better control the disease.
Are there new vaccines in the pipeline already? Anything that you can talk about? I know it's always difficult.
No, for sure. You have at least 2 vaccines already pre-qualified by WHO, RTSS and R21, who are now being rolled out in 5 African countries. But these vaccine called, let's say, first step or first line of, let's say, we need next generation, first generation vaccine, we need other generation vaccine to better improve the strategy, because these vaccines have a limited efficacy rate. So other vaccines are being developed to just complement the fight, and probably these vaccines, to be effective, need to be a combination of several stage vaccine, what we call multi-stage vaccines, that are required.
So what does your research specifically focus on? Because prevention is key, of course. If there's no malaria, if we prevented it adequately, then a lot of the problems are solved. But do you focus on preventative measures, or are you more focusing with your research on the clinical trials with vaccine candidates or other therapeutic candidates?
Yeah, I think my work is more focused on the vaccine development, but also on drug development to treat malaria and also to prevent it through vaccination. So on this sector, I think I'm focused on first in human trials, phase 1 and phase 2 mostly. But very few phase 3 trials are being conducted on our settings.
So that's for other research groups. As soon as a drug progresses through phase 2, then they roll it out also in other countries.
Clearly, you know that for a vaccine to be rolled out, it must pass the phase 3.
Yes. Yeah, because then we go into the real world phase of development. Yes. So do you have one of the most, is there a development in the past years regarding diagnosis, treatment, prevention of malaria that is outstanding or has caught your interest specifically? What do you feel is the biggest improvement over all the years of research?
I think a lot of progress has been made in terms of vaccine development. That is what, during the last 15 years, a lot of new knowledge has been really bring into field. And as I was saying, at least the first vaccine is now being rolled out. And this is a significant improvement in terms of research and the contribution of research toward the controls. And probably you know that there is quite no parasitic vaccines rolled out in the world. And this malaria vaccine was one of the first parasitic diseases being rolled out, and this is quite
achievement.
A big achievement, really.
Yeah. Is there a concern that, because of course it takes a while before a vaccine is fully developed and ready to roll out, that because you mentioned earlier that the climate change causes the mutation in
parasite.
Yeah, in the parasite. Is there a concern there that as soon as the vaccines are ready for rollout, that there might have been a dramatic mutation in the parasite which causes the vaccines to be less effective or ineffective? Is that of concern?
Yes, this is a concern, and that's why for the vaccine currently being rolled out, there is a provision to have studies and to see if there will be no mutation which will be making a parasite escaping to the human produce through consecutive to the vaccination. So this is one of the concerns. And to mitigate it, usually the research is now focusing on having multi-stage vaccine, so that even if the parasite escape to the let's say the pre-restocytic antibodies, blood stage vaccine, blood stage antibodies will probably control that parasite to mitigate the potential resistance that may come up with vaccination.
Are you optimistic about bringing a halt to the increase in malaria, or bringing a halt even to people or the mortality due to malaria?
Really, I'm optimistic. I was saying that I'm involved in that field of research for 13 years. I can clearly see how the world has been really improving, the improvement in terms of controlling malaria. At a certain time, it was quite easier to have malaria cases, but now, even for our research, we have some time. We are facing trouble to find those responding to the inclusion criteria, meaning that the improvement is being made. And I'm quite sure if the world really, the current commitment continue, we may be able to really efficiently control malaria. You have seen that several countries, even in Africa, have now reached the step where malaria is quite close to the elimination.
Under control. Yeah. Well, it must be wonderful to have committed yourself to such an important and relevant disease, public health threat, for so long, and get to see, the effects, the impact that you've helped make. I have personally been affected by malaria, so I can clearly understand, that is a motivation to be involved in terms of bringing our contribution to reduce the burden in the population. So that is, I'm proud really to be part of this community. Really. Well, thank you for all your work.
You're welcome.
Also, thank you so much for taking the time and giving us just a little insight behind the story that you held this morning, the keynote lecture. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for watching us. If you want to look back or you want to look it up, the keynote lecture that Dr. Sirima gave, it will be on demand on the platform of the ESCMID Global. We will be taking a short break. We will be back here at 5 o'clock when we will be doing an interview with two very distinguished members of ESCMID, namely the ESCMID President, Annelies Sinkernagel, and the President-elect, Robert Scoff, who will be handing over their presidency, or Annelies will be handing over her presidency to Robert tomorrow evening during this Congress. So that's exciting, and we get to ask them how it is to hand over such an important role. So tune in at 5 and watch or do the interview with us. Hope to see you soon.